This week on Worst Episode Ever. Laugh Command. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Look at my dad-bod. I got a dad-bod. I'm on my yacht with lots of hot young girls and I'm fat and I got boobs. I'm also photo. Laugh Command.
Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons by people who love The Simpsons about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack.
And we are back again with episode, what is this episode number, 38? 30-something?
36.
36. We're in our late 30s now.
Yeah.
Our knees are starting to go. Our eyesight's starting to go. And we're just, every episode is worse than the last. So yeah, hey everybody, we're here going to watch an episode from season 20 called Father Knows Worst. Jack, have you seen this one?
I don't know. I don't remember, probably.
I don't know. It's like you just woke up and I was like, Jack, have you seen this one? I don't know. Let me go back to sleep. I don't want to do the podcast.
That's pretty much the feeling I have every time we turn on a new Simpsons. I feel like season 20 it was during that DVR phase where I was watching it out of habit.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I don't know what the episodes are even about. So
yeah, we kind of just picked it. It was suggested by listener Tyler Petty. So thank you, Tyler. Or maybe we hate you. We haven't watched the episode yet. And we kind of just picked it like, oh, it's got father in the title, and this coming weekend is Father's Day.
So there you go.
So that's why we're doing it. It's probably about how terrible a father is, because his father knows worse.
So it's loosely related, but obviously Happy Father's Day to our dads and to all our dad listeners.
Our wee dads out there.
Although I don't know. I don't know if I quite believe that any of our listeners have ever had sex, but
we have actually gotten comments from people. Someone recently.
They said, "Hey, Dan, Jack,
I just had sex while listening to your podcast." And I was like, "That's terrific."
Wait, is that true?
No, that's not true. But someone did actually write in and say that he watches The Simpsons. He doesn't listen to the podcast with his son because it's a hell-ass, shit, explicit podcast. But he watches The Simpsons with his 7-year-old son, and the son can't tell the difference between a classic episode and a newer episode, which is a common thing.
That's really nice. So that's a good bonding experience. Although I agree, children shouldn't listen to the show for graphic content. Instead of graphic.
Is Gruffudd going to come in and say a little something? No, say his catchphrase? Where is he?
I just wanted to make the pun.
Hello, it's Gruffudd. Don't forget to wear your helmets. All right, I'll see everyone later.
I can't think of anything funny to do with Gruffudd. I got nothing.
All right, so Father Knows Worst is our episode. We're going to take a break and watch it. Oh, it was originally aired in April of 2009. So,
2009, high rate of bicycle deaths.
There you go.
Not a lot of helmet wearing that year.
That's right. Many people went to hell and met the devil. Listen, intro is...
That actually sounds coherent.
That actually does, yeah. What are we doing? Is this the end of the show or the beginning? Anyway, cut all this. We'll see you guys.
If we don't get more involved in their lives, Bart and Lisa are going to be failures. Failures to work for Noah.
Noah. I like that name. Noah.
So, that was Father Knows Worst.
Oh, boy.
It might have been the worst.
Well, we'll get to that.
Sorry. So again, Happy Father's Day to our dads and all the dads listening. Here is a shitty piece of shit.
Our gift was you did not have to watch this episode with us.
It's almost as if the Simpsons writers just tried to make an episode out of macaroni and glue. That was it. All right. Well, why don't let's just get the plot out of the way real quick.
Get it doing. Get it doing.
Yeah.
Not an expression.
Basically, Homer becomes a helicopter parent. He finds out from another helicopter parent, one of those one-off characters that exists solely for the plot and we'll never see again.
Yep.
And Homer realizes he's not. Bart and Lisa are not going to grow up to be the well-adjusted adults that all the other post-millennial children will be because of their helicopter parenting. I'm saying that facetiously, of course, because we're all going to be dead in the apocalypse.
That's right. It's coming.
Don't forget your helmet.
I'm Toothpick, not actual Gruffudd.
Woody Woodpecker?
It was me all along.
And Gruffudd was actually Chilly Willy.
For legal reasons, that was not Woody Woodpecker.
Who is Buddy Budbecker? The Ted Danson sitcom. So Homer basically becomes a helicopter parent to Bart and Lisa, not so much Maggie. Bart, he tries to improve his...
about Maggie.
Yeah, we will. He tries to improve Bart's grades by helping him with a model of the Washington Monument and then the Westminster Abbey. And he helps Lisa, who is already smart, obviously, by trying to make her more popular and getting her in with the cool crowd. That's pretty much it.
And comically backfires.
Yeah, comically backfires. There's a B plot, I guess, would be the word.
There's a B.
There's a...
There's just a B.
It's just a B. And it's Marge finds a secret sauna in the basement or the cellar? It was a basement.
In the basement, yeah.
Wait, the basement is a cellar.
Basement is a cellar.
I meant the basement or the attic. Yeah, it was in the basement/cellar, and she uses a sauna, and they cut to her every once in a while being kind of stoned off of steam, and that's that.
Yep.
So that's that.
That is that. It was a wonderful episode.
All right, so after Homer dies and the couch gag ends, Homer comes back to life and the show begins.
Yes.
With him on the boardwalk with the kids.
Yeah, so the show starts where they are at the Springfield Squidport, which I actually liked. It's a nice callback to, I think it was My Sister, My Sitter was the first
It seems
Squidport
to be
episode.
a Springfield
It's like a
staple.
place now.
Yeah,
It's like in there.
They don't use it all the time, but it's just as prominent as the town park in front of City Hall and,
Right.
and other places.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's a nice...
Consistent.
It's well animated. It's like a fresh kind of place,
Yeah.
even if it has been around for 12 years or whatever
Right,
at this
right.
point. I liked seeing it. And so Homer is there with Bart and Lisa.
20 years, pretty much.
Well,
So season 8, right?
season 8, yeah. So this was season 20.
Oh, I
So
see. I
it's
thought
12.
you meant from now. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I got it.
You know your math. Math was not my forte. One of the reasons I went to film school was I didn't have to take a single math class.
I'll just point out that one year that we were in high school in our math class, you spent many weeks making a maze as opposed to doing literally any work. It was an elaborate maze.
It was 2 pages long in my notebook, yeah.
Which was then photocopied and given out to everyone in class at a day when the math teacher was out.
Our math teacher, who was a sweetheart, Mr.
Yes,
Tiernan,
Mr. Tiernan.
She caught me one day, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she saw this like weeks in the making, like epic maze, and she was like,
Yeah.
she's like, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
And she took it, she confiscated it, but then she was absent one day, and she
Right.
surprised the class by making us all photo. But then, of course, I had to everybody's like thought it was funny at the time, and then of course I was getting all like our Staten Island compatriots going,
Yes.
"Yo, Jack, you got a dead end here. I don't. Am I supposed to? Can I go through this? Because my hand, it wasn't a perfect maze.
It was not the neatest.
There was some
handwriting.
there was some narrow corridors.
Yeah.
Is that what? Can I go through this? So I was actually getting abused by the same people who abused me for the typical reasons.
Yeah.
They didn't like my maze so much. Apparently, it wasn't a
Typical
Inception
bullying
level.
reasons, you're a nerd, you like The Simpsons, your maze was inefficient,
your corridors
were too thin.
Good thing they weren't in charge of the Inception. They wouldn't have let me make the.
Yeah, you were not Ariadne in Inception. Cobb would have just been like, "Oh, can I go through this? Can I go through this?"
That's right.
Is Leonardo DiCaprio in the room with us?
It's me, Leonardo DiCaprio. Look at my man bun.
I was in a Wolf of Wall Street, doing the cocaine, and now I'm turning into John Travolta. You didn't know it was me.
Yeah, I'm John Travolta. My career wasn't going great, so I became Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, that didn't take long.
Battlefield Air Tank, so I became Leonardo DiCaprio. I did Titanic 3 years before because I knew ahead of time I was going to do bad. Will you chop me up and feed me to the poor bed?
I don't know who that is anymore. It's
Some weird Travolta DiCaprio, Sharon Gillan, Brad Pitt, like
DiCaprio kill him bit.
I got my start on growing pains. And then I did
Oh my god.
Get yourself together, Teddy.
Whew. Oh
That was my
God.
character from Shutter Island Biz.
That's a good movie, Shutter Island.
I did
haven't
not like
rewatched
that
it.
movie.
I only
I
saw it the
did
once.
not enjoy it.
I'm assuming there'll be a cut right there. And the squid port was nice. So they go over one game. I don't remember which one it was. And they have old prizes, and the guy's like, oh, yeah, no one's won these prizes. They've been here for 50 years. And then it cuts over to the prizes. And I want to talk about this specifically.
Yeah.
The prizes were like a...
the Milwaukee was some old team
Milwaukee
that doesn't exist anymore.
Milwaukee, some sort of Native American was there. It was like a commie swatter. It was like a fly swatter with the communist symbol on it.
Yeah.
And like some
There was one
other
in between,
thing.
yeah.
The camera pans over to these things, and then one by one goes to each of them.
It goes down,
So there's
like they're
three-
all
yeah.
on shelves, and
It's like top shelf, medium shelf, bottom shelf.
It pans down, like...
And not only that, but you get Homer's not on the screen, but you get his audio reaction where he's like, oh, that makes sense. Ooh, I like that. And like, oh, I haven't seen one of these here.
But
and like that was
although
it.
then with the commie swatter, he goes, ooh, like he's afraid of it, and it was a really... bad sound effect. It was,
I thought all of it was awful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with having, like, oh, these prizes have been here for 50 years, and they're, like, dated, funny prizes.
Yeah.
That's great. They should be in the background.
Yeah.
Why are you calling attention to it?
Or even if you're going to pan to them, just then pan to one. The fact that they made a whole structure,
it was like
sequence out of it.
a 30-second thing where it was like, here's this one, here's this one. It was a lot like when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about that, the maps to the celebrity's home in Springfield.
Yeah.
Where it's like, did you read them all? Like,
Yeah, and we keep doing this hand motion every time we do the pan. The
was like
pan
this,
was
then it was
very
like this, then it was like this.
Yeah, it was very technical pan. It was like it went straight down. You know, it was almost like a computer move. It wasn't a handheld. You know, it was very. I can't think of the word.
slick, smooth.
No, it wasn't. It was like technical, I guess, is the best word for it. But
Digital.
It's just like 1, 2, 3. It was very step by step, and that also took something out of it because it makes it that much more of a. It's like, here are the jokes. We're presenting them.
Right.
It was like a slideshow almost.
Like a factory where the jokes are on a conveyor belt. And it's just like, here's this one, now this one.
So it was not. It was pretty bad in general.
No, not great.
And then after that, they have a guy juggling.
Right.
And he's like, toss me anything. I can juggle anything. He's juggling bowling pins or whatever.
Yep.
And Homer throws in.
He throws in Bart first.
And the guy, and it's just like Hank Azaria's regular voice, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what are you doing? You can't throw your son in here. What are you, nuts?
Right. So he throws in Lisa, and then eventually he throws it himself.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
It was a thing that happened in the episode. I have no opinion on it. It was not really funny.
See, I didn't like it. I didn't like Hank Azaria's voice acting. He was like, you can't just throw your kid in here. What are you, nuts? It's just very like, yeah, because we get it. He threw Bart in. It's wacky. And then it's just Hank Azaria go, this is nuts. You can't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really nitpicking. Obviously, if it was a real show, which it's not, he'd probably just stop and put Bart down. But I just really, I don't know, the whole gag was just so strained and I didn't like it. But then Homer throws himself in. And he can't handle the weight, the juggler, and Homer crushes him, and then the kids fall on top of Homer's belly, so they have a soft landing, and then the three of them just giggle, and they're having the time of their lives. I actually really liked that. Like, I liked...
Just that moment?
Yeah, like the Simpsons are bonding by doing something reckless and stupid and hurting somebody. Like, I actually liked that. Like, even though the entire joke itself was hard to watch, it wasn't, it was not funny...
I mean, what's the joke? Like, you can't juggle people? Is that the joke? And then, like,
I mean, I guess it's...
Fatty crushes juggler, and, that's the joke?
I think it's just jerk-ass, reckless dad. He's throwing Bart in, he's risking Bart's life and throwing him in with this juggler. And, I think it was one of those post-classic tropes. But I just like seeing them just, like, giggling and having fun on, like, this broken back juggler. I actually like that.
Brokeback Juggler was Ang Lee's aborted follow-up to Brokeback Mountain.
After it lost Best Picture, they put the
it's just like, to hell with this. Story of a gay juggler juggling two kids. It was a different kind of juggling.
It was supposed to, because Jake Gyllenhaal's character passes away in Brokeback Mountain.
I have never seen Brokeback Mountain, and you were aware of that.
Well, it's not a big spoiler.
I kind of knew that already.
But so it would have starred Heath Ledger and Leonardo DiCaprio. I just can't quit you.
So that's staying in the episode now. All right.
I got a dad-bod. I gained 50 pounds. Don't do this. I don't want them to know what DiCaprio.
What? That just sounded like Ned from South Park with the voice box. Like, no, man, where is Leonardo DiCaprio? Leonardo DiCaprio was in Inception.
I'm also chipmunking Matt Stone. I'm on to Hollywood.
That's everyone in Hollywood. That's just, they just walk around like, I just seen a new movie.
I'm John Travolta. I gotta be everyone. I need all the love.
Mad Max Fury Road is a good movie. I'm Tom Hardy. You have my permission to die. I don't know what's happening there.
Anyway.
All right.
Okay, so I was trying to think of when I wanted to bring this up in the episode. I guess I'll bring it up now, but it's going to require some jumping ahead.
Okay.
But so, like I said, the scene ends with Homer and the kids laughing on the broken back juggler.
Yeah.
And Homer just goes, I love Saturdays. And then it cuts to Marge saying, I love Saturdays. And it starts her scene.
Yes.
That was one of at least 4 that I can think of. Interesting. It was like really good transitions from scene to scene. Usually a scene will just end and go to the other scene, and that's not just the Simpsons or classic Simpsons or post-classic Simpsons. It's movies and TV in general. Usually,
Yeah.
Sometimes you have transitions. You have graphic cuts or graphic cuts or dissolves. Sometimes you do something like that, but more often than not, it's just you move on, and we've evolved with cinematic language where the audience knows, okay, now we're at a new place, new time.
Right. We're not like, what the fuck? This train's coming towards me.
It's very rare to see the Simpsons, at least, do these transitions. And when I saw one, I was like, oh, that's good. It goes from Homer saying, I love Saturdays, to Marge going, I love Saturdays.
They did it more times
They
in this
did
episode?
it 3 other times that I can think of. And it was just, so it almost became a theme in itself that they were just really trying to connect all these episodes together. These scenes together.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know why they did it.
That's ironic because most of these scenes are unrelated to each other.
Yeah, and unrelated. So I don't know why they decided this one episode. Maybe the writer tends to do it. But it's just something interesting to note. And I like that. I don't know if you would want it every time, but maybe you do. Maybe some shows do make a habit out of transitioning from scene to scene and putting a lot of effort into it. Other shows have graphics of like the scene folds into a graphic of an owl that floats away, like Home Improvement. Very famous for its transition. Star Wars does its famous wipes.
Oh yeah.
So obviously you can make a thing out of it. It's just interesting that this one episode seemed to have done it, and not for any particular reason. Just something to note. But the
that is
4,
strange.
So jumping ahead, the 4 that I saw was this, where Homer said, "I love Saturdays," and it cuts to Marge saying, "I love Saturdays," and it's just a nice little way to tie in the scene. Then there was so then this was a really cool one. We're going to talk about this scene later, I'm sure. But Lisa does all these gags about what kind of bland food they have in the cafeteria, and and they're like, "Who works in the cafeteria?" And she's like, "Old comedy writers." And then it cuts to the old comedy writers.
Right, but then we stay in the cafeteria.
At first, it seems like it's a Family Guy type cutaway, or really a classic Simpsons type cutaway.
Right,
but it's not. It's actually later in the scene, and it's setting up the cafeteria scene with Homer.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting way to just rather than just cut ahead to Homer being at the cafeteria. It's almost like they used a Simpsons Family Guy
cutaway joke, and to set up the next
and like snuck in the transition. Yeah. So that was a really interesting move.
I didn't notice that at all.
The other one, and then the other 2 are a little less subtle than the first 2. Especially that second one, but
it's probably that one where it just went new scene beginning.
That's how I think all shows should just make it nice and clear.
It would be so much more
efficient,
useful, and efficient. Yeah, it's just like we're with Marge now. Is this a new scene or is it?
I'm hoping J.J. Abrams. I know we want to have some traditional stuff, but I'm hoping the new Star Wars movies, instead of the wipes, it just goes new scene beginning. Yeah, they should get Leonardo DiCaprio to be the new scene beginning guy. It's a new scene. We were at Tatooine. Now we're on Hoth. I'm talking about the Leonardo.
Yep, that's exactly what they should do.
Oh, we understand the train. No,
J.J. Abrams, if you're listening, it's not too late. We can put those in. Give us a call. We know Leonardo DiCaprio. He's here in the studio with us. Isn't that right, Leo?
It's me.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Go wait at the bus stop.
I'm waiting for the bus. I'm talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. And I'm the talents.
He's everybody! And now he split into 2 people! What's up, bro? It's Leonardo DiCaprio!
I'm DiCaprio Red, DiCaprio Blue, like that Superman comic from 1998!
We both have electric powers!
Don't forget to put the E when you do plural of DiCaprios! So the third one is, So the third one, Homer is like upset that Bart and Lisa. He realizes from the helicopter parent that Bart and Lisa are not perfect children,
Right.
and he goes, "Way to go, Marge!" Basically, he's blaming all of their faults on her, which is funny. But then it cuts immediately to Marge, so that's a little less. But
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a little,
okay.
it's a little more subtle. But I think it was intentional, where they cut to Marge as soon as he says, "Way to go, Marge!"
Yeah, I'm
so it's
sure.
another way to just linking one scene to another. And then the fourth one, I remember, was the weakest one. What was it? So then, I'm sure we'll talk about this as well. They have this weird Popeye spoof where he drinks mayonnaise,
Yes.
a jar of mayonnaise, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It goes to the next scene, but in the beginning of that next scene, he's still humming the Popeye spinach mayonnaise
I didn't even
music.
notice that. Okay.
Yeah, so just
Interesting.
these weird, at least four that I saw, transitions from scene to scene where it was something lingering from the previous scene that kind of just brought you in, even on just a subconscious level. It makes the story seem more coherent. Maybe
Yeah.
they knew it was
No,
going
I
to be
like
an
that.
awful episode, and they did
They're
everything they
trying
could
to
to trick
string
us.
string it along somehow because this is an episode of just loosely connected ideas that don't really tie together very well.
So why don't we did this a couple times, and it seems to work out.
Just talk about Marge.
Yeah, let's get the B
Let's
plot
do-
out of the way
let's do the
because
B plot.
it's such a pointless thing. We might as well just get away.
Yeah.
So it goes from Homer saying, "I love Saturdays." He's with the kids, and it cuts to Marge saying, "I love Saturdays."
Right.
And she was in the
basement, and I liked this joke. She's like, finally, I can do something just for myself, and she's got a new water heater, and we find out Marge loves water heaters, and she can't wait to install the new water heater, which I liked.
It is one of those things where when you have your own home, and like at least at first, I was in my 20s. You get excited about new appliances like these
Yeah.
Monday things just because they're yours, and
Yeah.
I guess that's not what this is with Marge because she's been.
I mean, it's just this is more like housewife Marge
Yeah,
who loves
it's
loves
just fun
simple
to have
things.
these little nice simple things.
It's fun. It's fun that she thinks that's what a nice, relaxing Sunday or
Right.
Saturday by herself is. It's putting in a new water heater. They do a weird joke where she brings the old water heater up to the attic.
Yeah, well, the first part of the joke I think is it's like you said, it's that she gets she enjoys this chore, but it's clearly backbreaking work. Like she's like carrying the thing up the
Right,
stairs,
yeah.
and she looks exhausted, and it's very heavy, and she throws it in with all these old rusted out ones.
But and she says something like, "Oh, if we get 5 more water heaters, we get a free water heater," which I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
But she throws the water heater in the attic, and then it pans down like through the floor, as Simpsons often does and did. And you see Maggie's room where Maggie's asleep, and like the roof is caving in because all the water
weight
heaters,
of the water heaters
weight,
is sagging the floor.
and then it just cuts. It
Yeah.
just cut away, and I was like, "Are they going to do something?"
At first,
with
we
that?
thought it was going
I thought maybe that
somewhere.
would be part of the plot, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe the roof caves in, and they have
Yeah.
to fix the roof or something.
No, it turns out to
Nope.
be it's just a individual
just-
joke that like, hey, these water heaters are gonna kill Maggie at some point.
It was just an unrelated joke.
Isn't that funny? This
means
baby
nothing to
about to be
anything.
this imminent death of this baby in her crib. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I know we're already on. It's hilarious, by the way. I know we're already on a tangent where we're talking about the B plot. Well, maybe I'll save this. But that joke is indicative of something I want to bring
Okay.
up later. So
Foreshadowing. Stay tuned, folks.
put a pin in that, all
Stay
right?
tuned, folks. Dan's gonna be making
Stay
a point
tuned.
about
I've
foreshadowing.
got good points. Well, it's not about foreshadowing, but this is a foreshadowing of my point to come.
Well, you get the point.
Do you?
No.
So Marge replaces the water heater, and then she finds there's a door in the back of the basement that they've never seen with all the years that they've
Yeah.
lived in the house.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be a sauna that is in their basement.
I was as soon as she found the new door, I was like, oh, that's interesting because that is something that's somewhat believable. If you have like a large house, sometimes there are doors that
Yeah.
are just there. So I was like, oh, I was like excited about this B plot. I was like, oh, I wonder where this door is going to lead.
I mean, I thought it might be something like, like another storage area, and she found like something that was hidden that was there when they moved in the house. Which is kind of what it
had a
is.
lot of potential.
It had a lot of potential, but she opens it up, and it is a sauna.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that they wouldn't know they had a sauna, but also even more interesting is the fact that the sauna is running.
Yeah, the
there's
rocks are
there,
still
and
hot.
there's steam going on.
Yeah.
It's not just like an old sauna; it's
Yeah.
an active sauna that no one has presumably used in decades.
At first, again, this is all in a split second in the way my brain was, but I was just like, oh, so is she connected next
That's what I
door
thought.
to like a spa or something?
That's what I
because,
thought.
Yeah, it was clean. It was clearly
There was
running.
even a sign that said like Springfield saunas.
Yeah. But so it looked like I was like, oh, so she must be to this actual sauna. But no, the idea was that the previous homeowners had their own private sauna, and it's been running for 15 years.
Yeah, and they had these miracle rocks that just do not expire. They just are always hot, always making steam.
Such a stupid
It was
This is
really
one
dumb.
of the stupidest. Like I thought one of the first post-classic B plots that was awful was when Homer and Marge and Lisa decide to get a new doorbell.
Yeah,
and, like,
right.
And like it might be the dumbest fucking B plot I've ever seen. Marge gets a sauna. There's a secret sauna. A secret sauna.
Secret sauna. What the fuck? Like, what is that? I mean, you could do something with it. Like maybe Marge brings over the girls and like they have girls' time
Right.
I don't know. There's something that you could do.
There is a story that they somewhat tie into it that I like, a deeper story in that it's like Marge, she finally gets to relax. She found her outlet. Like she has this secret relaxing thing. It's almost like she took up smoking and she's like sneaking cigarettes out in the back.
Right.
Or I think even more so is because the way she comes out of the sauna, she's very relaxed and kind of a hippie. It's almost like she's sneaking marijuana. Like she's like going out and getting stoned. And I like that because it ties into how Marge is always stressed and she could use an outlet like that.
Yes.
But they don't really do anything with it.
Yeah, I have 2 points for that. One is we've already established that she actually loves water heaters and the manual labor of setting up water heaters. So she already does have an outlet.
Yeah, she loves Saturdays.
We weren't shown that she was stressed and needed this sauna in this episode.
If anything, that the transition I like should have been Homer saying "I love Saturdays" to her saying "I hate Saturdays," and then the sauna being being
like, "Oh, Saturdays aren't so bad now."
Exactly.
And then my other point was just they literally did nothing with
it.
this.
I was expecting it to, at some point
went
to
nowhere.
have some for the plot to progress, like A then to B to C. So so she has a sauna. Okay, now she's relaxed. Okay, now what?
She's too relaxed, and the kids are running amok because Homer's in charge now or something.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing at all. Like
Every
that.
other scene that was quote unquote the B plot was just her on the couch, very relaxed and reacting to
high.
Homer's exposition
Being
by
like, "Oh man,
basically high."
cool.
Yeah. They literally so secret sauna aside, secret sauna is a very stupid thing. Just saying the word secret sauna is stupid.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. That's not why we hate it so much. They
They
just didn't
could
do
have done
anything.
something with it. I actually thought since the sauna was already running that maybe someone had been like sneaking into the house and using the sauna, and that would be like the conflict. For
That
the
would
plot.
make sense if like Bart actually was using it and keeping it up and doing the upkeep or something.
Yeah, or like Flanders.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not Flanders, but
What was it like in the writer's room when this guy was just like, "Hey guys, I got this idea for a B plot.
Yeah.
Secret sauna." Like, wouldn't all the writers just like out of like if just by their brains being brains and working, wouldn't they go, secret sauna? It's kind of stupid.
like where's the basic plot elements of conflict at all?
Well, and that's the thing. So secret sauna does sound stupid, and it is kind of stupid, but it
could
does
be- it
set
could
up
be
good
made-
plot elements.
It could be made good.
Marge being stressed and having this secret relaxing outlet is actually a very strong.
Anything
B
could
plot.
be good. Secret sauna. It's kind of silly that they would have this room that's already running
Right.
in their
But
house.
you
that they
can
don't
make
know
it
about.
work.
They can make it work, but they did not in this episode. There was one thing I did kind of like where Marge finds the sauna and she's like, "Oh, should I tell anyone?" And she imagines Homer is there, and then Homer has brought in Lenny, and Lenny has brought in Carl, who's brought in Mo, and Mo
wants
is
to be
naked,
naked,
and
yeah.
he wants everyone else to get naked. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, and it was a fun way of showing that fact that she's right.
Yeah, she should absolutely not tell anyone
if she tells anybody, it's going to ruin it.
Yeah.
That was nice. And again, it was that thought bubble that we like for the
Right, this- yeah,
the
like
thought
a
bubble
dream
stays.
bubble.
We don't cut to the thought bubble. The thought bubble stays on the top half of the frame. And
Right. Well, it made sense here because we still saw Marge's face, and you
right.
could see her reaction to
Reactions,
like
yeah.
Mo being like, "Let's all get naked in the sauna."
That was very well done. It also does at one point really tie into the A plot. Not very good, but at the very end, she rewards Homer for trying to be a good parent by telling him about the sauna, and they have a sweet lovemaking,
They get
sweet
naked in the
bonding
sauna.
scene. Yeah, they get naked, and it's not too sensual because it's the silhouettes and the steam, so it makes sense. It's not over the top. There's
Yeah,
a
that
nice
was
little
fine,
moment
but-
where you realize she's using Duff beer on the hot coals, so the steam
Right.
has like an alcoholic, so just to make it that much more enjoyable for Homer and I guess Marge. I like that end. That was a nice way to end it. It just would have been a lot better if that sauna thing was tying in
If
the
it
whole
made
time.
any sense to anything. Yeah. I mean, Marge really is just basically drunk or high. Every time she comes out of the sauna, she's just like, "Oh, bleh."
Yeah.
There's one scene in particular. So Homer learns about helicopter parenting from this random woman, and her son's name is Noah.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Marge hears Homer say Noah, and she's like, "I like that name, Noah, Noah, Noah,
Yeah.
Noah, Noah." It's exactly that.
Yeah, it's the standard. Hey, I'm stoned. I find a word
Just like-
funny.
Yep, that's the joke.
Yeah, it's like if one scene of that is fine, okay, so Marge, we get it. Marge is, it's a good way to show, oh wow, the sauna is having very strong effects on Marge. It's really made her carefree and like super laid back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's progressing the plot. It went from she found a sauna, she's using the sauna is doing this to her.
Yep.
But it never progresses past that point.
Yep. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Like, that's it.
It never
that's
resolves
the plot.
itself, so now they have a sauna. She
They
tells
have a
Homer
sauna.
about it, but she's also now back to status quo Marge. She's not a weird stoner hippie anymore.
Yeah.
So that went nowhere. No, it really could have tied in, especially since the plot is Homer is trying to be a better dad, and the best time for him to really step up and be a better dad is when Marge is no longer really fulfilling her mom role.
Right.
So there is something to that, and I guess between the lines, that is what's happening.
It's like when Marge got addicted to gambling.
Right. But they don't. It just, I don't know. It never really ties in specifically. But the time they did have to use to tie in the two plots, they did the Noah joke and 10 other jokes of the same kind.
Which is surprising because everything else in this episode tied together so very well.
Well, the transitions were good.
Transitions were good, yes. So ultimately, this episode is about helicopter parenting and Homer trying to be a good parent. And kind of not surprisingly for a late era Simpsons episode, the first act has nothing to do with that.
Right.
And not only does it have nothing to do with that, it bounces from so many like beginnings of things. Like it starts with them at the Squidport, which like they're having, family day. And then what happens is Homer eats fire.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that in a second. Because he eats fire, his tongue is put in a cast, and once he gets out of the cast, he's a super taster, and he can't taste. He needs to eat bland food, which leads him to the schools, to eat at the cafeteria.
They dropped that completely.
And then it's at the cafeteria he meets another parent.
Right.
That is a lot of steps to
What's
just say,
funny-
Homer meets another parent.
What's funny is at the top of the show when I did the plot recap, I completely forgot. About all
You
of that.
skipped over all of it.
I didn't skip over it. I forgot.
That's the entire first act.
I was
it's
trying
like
to,
5 different
I
things.
was trying to think of like how it's set up, and I was like, oh, I guess the helicopter setup must have been earlier because I don't remember anything before it. But no,
it was.
I missed that all of
it
those
was
beats.
all there. But anyway, let's go back and talk about them one by one. So Homer is still at the Squidport. It's kind of funny. He's like, oh, a shish kebab, oh, a chicken kebab, ooh, a fire kebab, and he just eats like the fire eater's baton, basically. And then it gets weird and very cartoony.
So Lisa goes, no, Dad, don't. That's, fire baton. You're going to hurt yourself. And Bart jumps in front of Lisa and goes, no, Dad, do. Because Bart's a troublemaker and he wants to see his dad eat fire.
He wants to see his dad basically die, like the couch gag.
And he exacerbates that by Homer's like mouth's on fire, so Bart gives
he's
him
like,
some
I need
water.
something to drink, and he drinks this jug that Bart gives him, and then you look at it, and it's lighter fluid.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's funny. Dad made this mistake and burned his mouth. I'm Bart Simpson. That's funny.
Right.
But now you're like literally throwing fuel onto the fire.
Literally drinking poison, and then Homer starts burping, or I guess he's burping. I don't know what he's doing. He's literally breathing fire.
He's
like Godzilla.
Or the villain from Iron Man 3 in that one scene where he breathed
Turned
fire.
into Aldrich Killian. And then this was weird. He starts strangling Bart, which strangling has come up a number of times in the show.
And also burping fire into his face.
into Bart's face.
And he's like, I will burn you, burn.
Yeah.
Like that's violent.
That's fucked up. And also the animation in that moment was extremely weird. Bart's like eyes were bugging out, but not intentionally.
Not only that moment, but a couple of beats right before that. I think it was even before the kebab, or maybe it was when he did eat the fire. At some point, there was also weird facial. He had some weird face animation going on. And then I really noticed it, like you said, when he's strangling.
When he's strangling Bart, it just looks really, really weird.
Yeah. Is this what we should talk about?
Let's talk about it now. This episode overall is extremely cartoony.
Yeah, in look and I guess in the type of humor.
Yeah.
It was really at first like I said, I noticed the weird animation in that scene, but eventually you just slowly realize the whole episode has this kind of really goofy. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of post-classic episodes that have this problem, and most of them have it to some degree, but this one especially seemed like it didn't feel like The Simpsons. It felt like...
You know why? Okay, so this was the point I was going to get to later. I'm getting to it now.
It's a little early.
Get into it
earlier.
Getting into the points.
You guys waited 10 minutes. Here it comes.
Here it is. The one scene that made me think of this was later in the episode... popular girls are coming over to spend time with Lisa, and Homer's like, oh, I better get my spray tan, and he sprays himself in the face, and it's ant poison.
Yeah.
It's a funny-ish gag. that gag to me was indicative of the entire episode because he sprays his face with ant poison, and that's it.
Yeah, he passes out. He goes, ooh, and he passes out, and then it
Right.
cuts immediately
It
to the
cuts
next
immediately to
scene
the
where
next
he's
scene.
conscious, and it had no effect on
The
him.
ant poison's immediately forgotten. It has no bearing on anything, and like I feel like older Simpsons or maybe even a slightly better show would have done something with that. Like in the next scene, ants are attacking, and he's like, and he puts his face in, or something stupid like that.
It's literally the opposite of how I said there were 4 scenes that really went out of their way to transition to the next scene, whereas this one was jarring in the way how
Yeah.
it just cut to the next one and it just moved on completely.
Yeah, constantly. It was like that throughout the entire episode, and the jokes were not great. I mean, most of them were like, someone got hurt.
Yeah.
Like Homer sprayed ant poison in his face, and then he passed out.
It was like we're using cartoony in a broad sense. Some of the animation was kind of like old school Tom and Jerry cartoony, really.
Yeah.
But the jokes were kind of juvenile, but there were also some that were weird, dopey. So
Yeah.
one that I think the moment where I was like, man, this is a cartoony episode, was Homer is concerned that Bart is not doing well in school, and he peeks in Bart's class, and Bart is just like drooling on the desk, like, duh.
Yeah, that
And,
was,
like,
man.
And then Miss Grabopple says something to him, like, did you have your project ready? And he's just like, duh. And I think it was Leonardo
I think it was Leonardo DiCaprio,
was
yeah.
playing Bart, guest starred on this to play Bart Simpson. But yeah, and it was just, look, I get the point. You want to make a point that Bart's a dumb student and Homer needs a helicopter. And Bart's been dumb throughout the show. That's consistent.
Right.
But they've usually done smarter ways of showing how dumb he is.
Don't just cut to Bart literally drooling and being like,
duh. Yeah.
you could do something a little bit better.
So that's when I was like, oh man, there's some weird cartoony aspect to this episode. But a lot of the points the show was trying to make, I don't mean like thematic points, but like when they were trying to convey something in a scene, they usually did this lowest, I don't even want to say denominator, because I don't think the lowest common denominator means this is so everybody gets it. I don't think everybody gets it. It was just lazy. It was just like, so here's this, so Bart's dumb, so here he is, duh. And like another aspect is Homer keeps saying he wants to be a helicopter parent. So how do you show that? Rather than show him helicopter parenting, which is what the plot is about, he literally turns around as a helicopter, goes,
Doing this, like, helicopter
and he
spinning
spins with
noise.
his fingers out, and he's like acting out a helicopter. You want to do that once, maybe it's because you want to say, hey, helicopter parenting, like a helicopter. If you feel like that low-hanging fruit needs to be plucked because it's there, fine. You do it once, get it out of the way. But
maybe do it once really quick. Maybe don't do it multiple times and have like an extended scene of
have
Homer
the scene
spinning in the
built around
hallway.
it. So there's another moment where he does it and he's spinning and he hits the he's in the hallway, like you said, and he hits the lockers, knocks himself down, falls on his back, and goes, Black Hawk down.
Terrible.
And I could I'll see the writer going, or one of the writers saying, okay, we're doing helicopter parents. You know, it's this phrase, everybody. It's a buzzword. Everybody's saying helicopter parents.
Yeah.
Well, we should do a Black Hawk down joke because that's a helicopter joke we can make. It's another low-hanging fruit. It's like, all right, they wrote down you could see them like with a dry erase board
on the
in the writer's
whiteboard
room.
being like, helicopter, question mark.
Yeah, so
Black
what can
Hawk
we
down?
do? Yeah, Black Hawk down. What else can we do? Can we do
The noise it makes.
Can we do that Blue Thunder show with Dana Carvey from the early 80s? Can we make a reference to that? Laugh Command. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Look at my man bud. I got a dad bod. I'm on my yacht with lots of hot young girls and I'm fat and I got boobs. I'm also such a photo.
Laugh Command.
I did it. I helped my son. Helicopter Homer, away. Black Hawk down. Black Hawk down.
Yeah, this was a really cartoony aspect, and another thing I wanted to tie into that is the writer of this episode, because we looked him up after the comedy writers. At some point, we thought to look him up.
Yeah, this episode was written by Rob Lezebnik, who's written a number of episodes. He also wrote Homer vs. Dignity, which is the only other episode we've done here. But interestingly enough, he wrote one of his first major writing gigs was on this show called Empty Nest, which I've heard good things about.
There's a podcast you should listen to that goes
Okay.
in depth about how great that show
Down
is.
to the Nest, I bet it's called. All right.
So when I found out that he was an Empty Nest writer, besides being excited because I support any former nesters.
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? My first thought was, okay, so he has to be a little bit older than the Simpsons writer. Usually when I picture a Simpsons writer, I picture somebody in their 30s or maybe even 20s in the classic era, but like generally younger, besides John Swartzwelder, obviously. But that's probably naive of me. There's probably older writers.
I don't think that's how it is now.
Yeah, and we don't know what his age. Well, it's also when I went to film school, I took TV writing and TV sketch writing and TV sitcom writing classes, and they were taught by a former TV writer who, again, this was one man's opinion, and I was a young, naive 20-year-old who believed everything he said, but he was very adamant that TV writing, half-hour TV writing was a young man's game, and that they like purposely wouldn't hire, you know how like older actresses can't get good parts?
Yeah.
His theory was that older TV writers won't get good shows because producers and network executives don't think that they're fresh or they can't get into the minds of the 18 to 49 demo.
That's interesting.
So yeah, he was like, look, get your shows out of, you have to get to a point where you're creating your own shows and being a showrunner and a producer by the time you're 45, 50, because you're not going to be getting those
You're not
staff
gonna be in a
jobs
room,
anymore.
yeah.
So I always had that in the back of my mind. I have no idea how true it is. But I always pictured writers being younger, and so this is speculating completely off base here.
All right, that's what we like to do on this show.
But when you said that he was writing Empty Nest in 1988, I'm assuming at youngest he's 45, probably a little older than that, probably in his 50s. Although I guess, again, this was 6 years ago, so maybe he was in his 40s. But because this episode was so off base and so cartoony, if I was wondering if, again, completely speculating, but in my head I have this like guy who was a 80s classic TV writer. He was writing really by the numbers, like empty nest type scripts, and he's like, oh, I'm on The Simpsons now. Like what? I got to write this cartoon. Here's my take on a cartoon. And he's like, oh, Bart would be like, go duh, and Homer would be doing a helicopter. And he's like, bleh. And then, so like it's just like when I say cartoony, it's almost like this is like this older guy's idea of what The Simpsons is because he doesn't get it.
Right.
Now that's completely off base because, like you said, he also wrote Homer versus Dignity.
Yeah, I mean,
but it just, I wonder if it has something to do with an older writer's sense of how The Simpsons is supposed to be, and him getting it wrong a little, and this is why this show has this weird cartoony aspect. Again, he probably wrote the first draft and went into the room and written by Al Jean.
Right.
So this is all really, it's almost very broad maybes and what ifs. It's definitely not the right answer.
We can't place the blame just on him. I mean,
yeah.
This is
a
group effort.
I wonder. It's just very weird that this episode in particular was very cartoony, and also props to the guy. I wonder why he went out of his way to put these interesting transitions in. If you remember,
you really like these transitions, Jack.
Well, Empty Nest was famous for its transitions from scene to scene,
where a bird would fly in and like, now the nest is empty and the scene can begin, and it was a long way to get from scene to scene. But
interior, Charlie's house.
They just read the script while it was happening. Like one channel was the reading of the script, and the other channel was the actual actors. So let's go back to Act 1. We're like 7 hours into this podcast. Yeah, there's about. So yeah, going back, Homer eats the fire, and his tongue has to be put into a cast. That's also very cartoony. Like,
it's very cartoony. Why would your tongue be in a cast? I actually liked it. It was one of my favorite parts of the show, or one of the few parts that I enjoyed, I guess would be a better way to put it. I liked the look of the tongue cast. It was just kind of funny. I guess in a cartoonish way. Yeah,
it was cartoonish.
It was very big and bulky. Homer's tongue in these scenes, like it's also put on a microscope.
Right.
And Hibbert's
okay.
It was just a very big tongue. It
was a very big tongue.
They had to enlarge the tongue for the jokes and the scenes to work. So that was, again, cartoony.
I just thought it was stupid. It was just like, oh, his tongue's in the cast. And then it was like, Hibbert cuts it open, and then he's a super taster, which, okay, that's fine.
I liked where they show that the taste buds had burned off and new fresh ones had grown in their place.
Yes, I like
this
this
too. And they show
too.
a close-up of these like really like fresh-looking taste buds, and
Right.
they're all like, ooh, and Marge goes, that could be our Christmas card.
Yep.
That's a great Marge line.
I like that, a great Marge line. But yeah, it was just like, why are we doing this? And why is he a super taster just to get him into Springfield Elementary?
It's funny that I completely forgot about that plot when I did the recap, because Homer becoming a super taster definitely seems like a post-classic, maybe even a classic type of Simpsons plot. It's like, oh, I could see that. Homer has this accident, and now he's a super taster. Especially post-classic. I could see it in my head. So he becomes a super taster. Now he's writing he becomes a food critic for a newspaper, which they've done.
Right. Yeah.
But like I see like that chain of events coming from his.
Well, all right, let's just do this. This is an experiment. We can cut this if it doesn't work. Real quick, episode starts the same exact way. Homer's a super taster. Where does it go if you write this episode? Real quick. First thing.
Okay, so he's at a restaurant and he realizes that there's a spice in a food that it was a secret spice that you weren't supposed to know about.
Okay.
But he can taste it, and now he's spoiled the game. And Luigi was actually using like child's cough syrup in the like some kind of equivalent to that.
All right.
In the food.
They could do that episode. That's a good one. That's not bad.
because it comes from him being a super taster.
I was thinking he's drinking Duff beer. He tastes something off about Duff that no one else can taste. There's like something chemical in Duff that like gets exposed.
Or he becomes
pretty much the same
or
thing.
Or what if he becomes the taste? Like that's a job. You know, The Simpsons does. Homer becomes a this. You know, they try to come up with all these jobs. That's a job I'm not sure they ever did. Where it's a really cool job. There's a novel that just came out about it called Yellow Number 8 or Sweetness Number 8, Sweetness Number 9, something like that.
Okay.
But it's about how there are these tasters and these
they
these
taste like the
flavor
artificial
creators.
flavors.
Yeah, in food or even not just artificial, but even like I've seen on Modern Marvels where you're making a pizza sauce or something. There's a guy's job is to taste every batch and make sure it's up to par. And like that's his job. So Homer getting a job is that where he just gets paid to eat this food over and over.
Yeah.
Or like that Breaking Bad episode. Didn't that open up with them trying all the new sauces?
French?
Yeah, the French
Yeah, yeah.
dressing. Yeah. So like that, there's Homer works at a food factory. I don't think they've ever done that.
Yeah, no, that would have been much
Or
better.
what I was going to say, what your idea was, he works at Duff. He
works at the
becomes
Duff
the
Brewery.
near beer,
That could be- yeah.
the new beer flavored taster. Like that's awesome.
That would be pretty awesome.
But that's
I'm
not what
surprised they haven't done that yet. Maybe
Yeah.
they have. We just haven't seen it.
Duff Dry.
But yeah, it's just a weird, really weird. Like the crux of the episode is okay. We need to get Homer to meet another parent at Springfield Elementary, and they do that with this very elaborate taste test or taste bud thing.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just
get it.
yeah, just to let it go. All right, so Simpsons does do these non sequitur first acts. I don't mind them. If it's going to go into something else, fine. I don't mind that. The best Simpsons episodes do this from time to time.
Yeah.
But at least it would have been nice if they brought it back somehow because so he still has these super taste buds the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
And
in his sauna.
And they never really call it never comes up again that he has these super taste buds. There's no callback at the end, even like a token callback. There's nothing.
No,
His super
no,
taste
it's-
buds are irrelevant.
And that's
to the
my
plot.
point. This episode, things happen and then are immediately forgotten and just pushed away. And what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. In that scene, I just wanted to bring up. So in general, I really like the animation in this episode. There were some.
There was some good stuff.
There were some moments in the later we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind the cartoony aspects. I've been saying how it was weird that this episode was cartoony, and then maybe the writer thought this was The Simpsons. I guess that makes it sound like I was off on it. I didn't mind it. I kind of liked. I mean, I hated the scene where he's burning Bart's face and he's getting glee out of it.
Yes.
But I didn't mind the animation in it. That if you're going to do wacky animation, that's the time to do it.
But I don't think that was animation that was wacky, like, because Bart's getting his face burned off. It was just like off-model, weird animation.
Maybe. I don't know. I liked it. But then also, I don't know if I liked it. It's funny, but I didn't hate it. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. When Homer first finds out he has the super taste buds, he tries a lemon lollipop, which is very sour.
Right.
And his entire face like sucks into itself.
Yes, but they've done that before.
And then Herbert pulls him out.
But they did that exact same joke when at the candy convention when Homer takes
yeah,
the sour
you're
ball.
right. And it was-
I don't know. It was literally the same joke.
And it was way funnier that
Yeah,
time because it was
exactly.
slower and because of the I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. All right, never mind.
Yeah, all right, good.
But it was at least they're playing with the animation. I don't know.
Anyway, he can't eat because he super tastes everything, which is not how super tasting
He also
works.
can't. Well, before that, he can't even talk because he has the cast on his tongue. And
Oh, is this that sex thing?
yeah, somebody says, "Well, how are you gonna make love now?" And Marge goes, "Oh, he can just write it. If he wants me to do something, he could just write it down." That's a weird joke. Are they saying that like what did they do something like spank me on the butt or like, put it in my ear like
Put it in my ear. That's not the kind of snuggling they do at the Simpsons house, Jack.
Like what is he? What is she? What's the joke that he would be writing down?
I think the joke was, I think it was Hibbert said like, "Oh, this may affect your lovemaking," meaning
because they
like,
can't kiss.
maybe
because
because they can't. Homer can't do things with his tongue that he might otherwise do, and then I think Marge more innocently interpreted it as like Homer can't talk during sex.
Okay.
That was my
maybe
take.
that makes more sense. Or maybe even she's this is a really cruel joke, but maybe they just have very selfish lovemaking and he's like and Hibbert's worried he can't go down on her and she's like, "What? No, I just go down on him. He'll just write it down and let me know." I don't know.
That's
I'm
probably
thinking-
not the joke. I'm just gonna go out on a limb. Rob Lazebnik, if you're listening, we insulted you a little bit, but write in if that was your intention.
Well, I actually meant to eat the butt. It was a butt eating joke.
Oh, I actually meant a butt eating joke. I work in a box factory when I'm not writing Simpsons episodes.
Simpsons fanfic.
Yeah.
One of you out there, one of you listeners is probably writing some really gross Simpsons porn and it's going to become the next 50 Shades of Grey and you're going to make millions of dollars and we're going to be very bitter and hate you about it.
Wow. I don't know. Well, maybe one of you are. I don't know.
50 Shades of Yellow.
That's a good title.
Homer writes down to rub it along my tongue cast, baby.
Nope, I'm putting a stop to this. We're not going any further.
You know who could star as the Homer analog, Christian Yellow in 50 Shades of
Is it
Yellow?
Leonardo DiCaprio? Maybe you should go outside, Leo.
Okay.
Groofik, get him out of here.
Gulp. No.
Oh no, you ate him! Soon Leo will know the existential horror of being eaten.
I never made a word of her tongue movie.
Can't understand what you're saying. You're inside the stomach of the Groofik. And that is the end of Leonardo DiCaprio. And I'm going off into the distance. Goodbye. Until next time. Worst episode ever.
Is that the end of the show? Are we just ending it now?
Yep. See you next week.
That should be our series finale. So one joke I did like with the so again, maybe they could have made a whole plot out of this. I did like some of the super tasting jokes. They're trying to give him bland foods that won't overstimulate his senses.
Right.
And she goes, I cooked all the red out of the beets. And
Yeah.
he's suffering because he still tastes overtones of pink.
Right.
I like that.
That was okay. And then I like Lisa comes in and feeds him like, Dad, eat this. And he's like, it has no taste whatsoever. What is this? And it was food from the cafeteria. It was macaroni and cheese. And then Lisa brings out like all this other food and it's like, oh, this is
Pecan blandies.
whatchamagessums or something.
Guess 'em what's, I don't know. Something
Whatever
like
it
that.
was. But
all bland
pecan
food
blandies,
puns
I remember
and jokes,
specifically.
yeah.
They're all food puns and jokes. And Lisa makes a comment that like, oh, old comedy writers work.
They're like, wait, who cooks all this stuff? Who works in the cafeteria?
Yeah, and Lisa says it's old comedy writers, and then it cuts to old comedy
yeah.
writers in the kitchen.
So I love that line by Lisa. It's like, who makes these? It's like old comedy writers because they were old writers' room type jokes.
See, I did not like it. I liked it when they actually were working in the cafeteria and you saw it. We're
black and
we're
white
totally
here.
opposite.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really like because it's just like it's kind of a meta joke. It's like we put in all these dumb food things. These food puns, and I like the idea that the reason they have those names is because they were written by comedy writers.
But that's the real reason. Like what they were written by old comedy writers.
Yeah, well,
the people who write The Simpsons are now old.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But I just thought it was the idea was funny. It's like that. That's why they have these comedy type sitcom names is because they were written
right.
I really like that. And then we've talked about this in the show before. I don't like when they actually act out the joke after already doing the joke.
It saved it for me to actually see them in the room.
So they cut to like 4 middle-aged comedy writers.
Yeah, I loved there was one guy who had a Charles in Charge shirt and he was like, yeah, in the writer's room at Charles, we had a rule. Charles always had to be in charge. I like that.
And then everybody's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I
actually like
thought
that.
that was too on the nose.
I
First
thought
of
that
all,
was funny.
he's wearing a Charles in Charge shirt. Come on.
He didn't need to be wearing the Charles in Charge shirt. That was stupid.
It's just like, and then to me, wearing the Charles in Charge shirt is the visual equivalent of the joke, where he's just like, Charles always had to be in charge. Like that's the joke. The show's called Charles in Charge. So
you're right. It would have been better if he wasn't wearing the shirt.
But even the joke I think is stupid. It's just like the Charles always had to be in charge. It's like yes, we get it because that's the name of the show.
Well, we will agree to disagree, sir.
I don't mind Charles in Charge references, and I guess you can't do deep cuts on Charles in Charge because probably only I will get them.
You can't be like, see, in season 1 we had the Pembertons, and then in season 2 we had the.
Like we only had one rule: Mr. Powell's father had to be
Mr.
really
Powell.
cool, and it made sense because Mr. Powell was an uptight ex-Navy. I get that you can't make that joke.
That's a pretty deep cut.
Yeah, but I don't know. Charles always had to be in charge because the name of the show is Charles in Charge. You get it? You get it? That's the joke. And then everybody go, oh yeah, that makes. I just thought it was just a dumb joke. I'm surprised you liked it. I thought it was really stupid.
It was a dumb joke. That's why I liked it. I don't know.
I think it would have been funnier almost if I don't know I like the idea that they're talking intellectually about Charles in Charge. Like I like that premise.
Yeah.
I just think I guess it was because they were doing a Charles in Charge joke about Charles in Charge. Like he's in charge. I almost wish it was more of like a technical thing. It's like, we always had to have some kind of just technical writers.
Why was Charles in charge? He was just kind of this weird drifter who lived with his family.
He wasn't a drifter. He went to Princeton.
Was a drifter. He said he did. I never saw. Where was that diploma, Charles? Huh? It wasn't hanging up? Did Buddy Limbeck take it? I don't think so.
Take it to his Bible camp.
That's right. Not in charge of me, Charles. Tony Danza, you're on notice,
Especially when you have all these pretty teenage daughters. It seems weird that you would keep this strange 20-something.
Why do you have this strange man? Why is he in charge of your house?
Yeah, no, I don't know. The comedy writer's joke didn't really do it for me. Although I did like the transition, how that was the start of the next scene with Homer.
Yes.
So Homer's working at. Oh no, Homer.
Well, he's eating there, and then lunch lady Doris is just like work here, why don't you? And like he does, and that's just another
he can't
beat in
pay.
the story.
He can't pay for his lunch food, so he gets a job there. And now he's embarrassing Bart, and that seems to be what the plot's going to be. Homer's working at the school. Doesn't that suck to have a parent who works at the same school as you?
Right.
And he's like in his underwear.
He's in his underwear, and he sings this terrible song about Jello, which
it's supposed to be like a prison song, I guess, like a prison.
It was like, you can't have my Jello. It wasn't that, but it was.
And I think it was supposed to be like, working like, how when you work in the prison staff, you sing songs.
I don't know what the fuck it was supposed to be, but it was not funny. It was not
awful.
good. It did not belong anywhere near this episode. And then the actual plot finally starts when you come back from commercial, because Homer just happens to be in the cafeteria now, and he talks to this other parent, and that's how it begins.
Right, and it's one of those Simpsons characters that pretty much just exists for exposition's sake. We'll never see her again. She was a very one-dimensional character. She was a helicopter mom, and that was it.
Right, she was just like
to the point where she's actually watching her kid eat in the cafeteria. That's why she's there. Very lazy writing.
And she makes him recite the state capitals in alphabetical order on her clapping,
which was
good, because that's the kind of thing like these overprotective mothers would do.
They definitely do something like that. I guess unlike me, I guess I helicoptered myself, and what I used to do in school when I was bored was
draw mazes.
Draw mazes, and I would like go over all the capitals in alphabetical order in my head and make sure I could remember them, all the states.
Let's hear them.
You got the states are the capitals.
The states.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, et cetera, et cetera.
Checks out.
But two interesting points about that scene is that when she's doing the clapping and he has to do it on the claps, they cut to Homer and he's like
also clapping
along, but like stupidly clapping, like I like sounds, like
just like dead in the face, like
yeah, exactly. And like I don't know exactly what the point was. I think the joke was that Homer just liked to hear the clapping and he's an idiot.
I think it's just Homer is an idiot. Yeah, is the joke.
Maybe he was like trying to learn how to helicopter pirate, but I think it was the former.
That's the kind of thing. Okay, this whole episode we've talked about this before, when the jokes become at Homer's expense. It was just like, instead of Homer is this father and the protagonist of our series, it's just Homer is a moron. Like, let's make him do moron things. That's way too much of that in this episode and in this kind of era.
So I didn't like that weird cutaway. In general, I didn't mind that. It was a good way of showing helicopter parenting, if kind of mundane.
Okay, so that's kind of the plot, is Homer wants to be a helicopter parent, and he's trying to help Bart do better in school and help Lisa do better with her friends. We don't really need to talk that much about it.
Yeah, I do have one quick thing I wanted to bring up that's kind of before the helicopter parent scene. Ralph is sitting with Homer's eating the cafeteria food with Ralph, and Ralph goes, "I used to date your daughter." And that's very indicative of how it seems season 20 and the HD era brought in this meta thing where The Simpsons is just... That's clearly a callback to I Love Lisa, the classic season 4 episode.
Season 4, yeah.
One of the best Simpsons episodes to date, I think. Yep. Like top 15, maybe.
To date, they might get topped by season 27.
Season 27.
The return to form without Harry Shearer.
But... no, so it was just season 20 was the first HD season, so it's I'm guessing it's just interesting that seems to be the line where the show started looking in on itself and becoming more meta, jokes for Simpsons fans, jokes.
Right. Although there really wasn't much of a joke there. It was just like, hey, remember this old episode?
Not even jokes. You're right. Yeah, just these weird references that hardcore Simpsons fans. Yeah. I don't think they realize that the hardcore Simpsons fans stopped watching 10 years ago. But
yes,
that's moot.
That is a moot point. So we don't have that much to say about the overall plot. We kind of already talked about the theme of how it doesn't make any fucking sense. So there's just a couple of moments that we want to hit before we get the hell out of here. There's one moment where Homer comes home and he sees Marge coming out of the basement, and she's in the towel and her hair is down. And he's like, I wonder where Marge was. And he has a fantasy of Marge water skiing with a stegosaurus. And then he just goes, yeah, that's probably it. And that's solved. Yeah, and that was the end of that.
I think that's indicative of this whole cartoony aspect the whole show had. Where,
that was just, what is this?
Writers were treating it as like, hey, we're doing this wacky show, which The Simpsons is. The Simpsons is certainly wacky, but it just seems to be, it's not I don't know, it's almost like they got the tone and the humor of the show wrong. They were thinking of a different show.
Do you remember the joke in the 138th episode Spectacular when they said the kids were great, but they couldn't compare to Captain Wacky, later renamed Homer? Homer now basically is Captain Wacky.
This show's gone full circle. You're
Yeah,
right.
they should just call him Captain Wacky from now on, and he's just like bling wads and fliggity florps and hitting himself in the face.
Seems to be that whenever you criticize the show on Twitter or whatever, Al Jean seems to have become the Matt Groening from the 138th episode. Get out of my office!
Get out of my office! Yeah. So I just want to point out this stupid Stegosaurus thing. It's just like, what is this?
It was obviously the writer's like, wouldn't this be a funny visual? Let's put this in.
Well, you're paying lip service to the idea that, hey, Marge isn't around. Like, she's spending all this time in the sauna. Won't Homer notice? But then you're doing that, but saying, like, Homer's so dumb, he thinks she's literally with a dinosaur, and, like, he won't ask any more questions.
Yeah. Is this the scene where he realizes Marge isn't going to help helicopter parent, so he realizes he has to do it on his own, so he does his Popeye spinach moment?
He sure does. Not to be related with Popeye's chicken, which is delicious, and we may be going to get it in like 10 minutes. But yeah,
in case you were wondering, what our lunch menu was.
It's all at Popeyes all the time. All right, cut all that. That's fine. No, so Marge won't be helping him, so Homer's like, looks like it's a job for me, and he sings the Popeyes theme, I think, and he pulls out a thing of mayonnaise, and I thought, that's pretty funny that Homer would use mayonnaise instead of spinach.
Yeah, exactly.
Because mayonnaise is basically
fattening
poison.
And gross, and Homer likes to eat bad food. Yeah,
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
He downs it, and he's like, I guess he was singing the Popeye theme, and he just downs the whole thing of mayonnaise.
It's glugging out of the jar in
It's
the way
gross.
that the spinach would glug out, and it's very Popeye animation.
Very Popeye animation. And then, nothing. Yeah. Just the next scene, like you said, he hummed the Popeye theme for a second, and that was it.
Yeah, I guess, it's like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to be a helicopter parent on my own. Let me suit up and have my strength.
Even for him to down on the mayonnaise and be like, oh, that was a terrible idea. Well, that's something.
I mean,
I wouldn't have wanted
his stomach does rumble. He makes his muscles like Popeye, and then he cringes in pain because it's
who did a great
stomach.
Popeyes joke like that? I don't know if you saw the movie The Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah, when he's on the Quaaludes
with the cocaine he needed to strength.
Yeah, you're right. I completely forgot about the actual Popeye. Oh, because the Popeye is playing in the background.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Yeah, that was great.
Oh my god! Until this moment, I completely forgot about a whole sequence in this episode where Homer is he buys a book about how to be like a cool girl and tries to help Lisa, and then he goes to Moe's and he's negging Lenny and Moe and acting like a complete and utter jerk off and being like, let's all go to food, and everyone gets excited. And he's like, oh, not you, Moe, and that's when Moe runs into his bedroom.
It was like weird psychology to make people feel like shit, so he invites everybody but Moe.
Like pickup artist kind of crap.
This is completely off topic. It'll probably be in the deleted scenes, but I was just listening to a interview about a book, I guess, about Charlie Manson.
Okay.
And apparently
this is very off topic.
Yeah, the book he used to win people into his cult, convince people into his cult, was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, really?
And step by step, he just followed the book, and that's how he built his cult up.
All right.
So
aspiring cultists, Dale Carnegie's
he
got
also
a book for
wrote
you.
a song for the Beach Boys. And lived with one of
Well,
the
that
Beach
I knew.
Boys.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't want to surprise you, but Charlie Manson was kind of a weird guy.
He later became John Travolta. He reinvented his career. He's like, maybe the way to win friends and influence people is to star in Welcome Back, Kotter as a young teenage boy. And that started off the career.
And that's
so now in Charlie Manson in his fifth iteration, he's kind of like Doctor Who in that way. He regenerates as a new celebrity. So the fifth Manson is actually a Leonardo DiCaprio.
What the fuck are we talking about?
You only get 12 regenerations unless the Time Lord gives you a whole set of new ones. I'm a Time Lord. I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. I regenerated outside of Griffith's stomach. I'm back.
This is a very layered metatextual thing that was happening now. I've been here the whole time.
I am all I be all. I am what I am. I'm Popeye and I'm Yahweh.
He is all of Hollywood. I forgot. You're right.
I am the existence.
I am who am. I am the DiCapricon.
I am the Alpha. I am the Omega. I am the DiCaprio.
They're going to cancel us. I don't know how, but someone's going to cancel us. After this episode.
You just got an injunction. You are no longer allowed to make podcasts.
iTunes is just going to be like, we're out, fellas. I'm sorry, you can't post on us. You still got Stitcher with your 3 reviews, one of which is from one of you.
So speaking of Homer being an idiot, in the modeling scene, so Homer's buying a model of the Washington Monument for Bart's project. He wants to helicopter dad his project, make sure it's a great project. There were a couple of. There's one thing I liked, one thing I really didn't like. Obviously, I hated the Otto thing. So, in addition to Otto's drug thing, the glue thing.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, Skinner.
It's Skinner.
Yeah. So we were just talking about how stupid Homer was in a couple of these scenes where he and Bart were literally like, "Duh!"
Yeah.
And like this point, Skinner comes up and says, "You shouldn't do the Washington Monument. You should do something more complicated."
Your son's. Oh, right. Yeah.
And Homer goes, "Who are you?" What are you
he just
doing
goes,
here?"
he goes, hey, thanks, that's good. And also, who are you?
Yeah. It's like, so
It's like, I'm the
Homer
principal.
doesn't recognize Principal Skinner.
I think it's safe to say that Homer and Principal Skinner are friends.
Yeah.
He has been to the Simpsons' home. They were in a Grammy-winning band.
They were in a band together. That should be number one.
He dated Homer's sister-in-law.
He sees him at these very small PTA type town hall meetings as well.
Constantly.
When Skinner left town and became our man Tanzarian again, Homer led the charge to get him back. Sort of. Well, he drove the car.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
it was just like,
look, I get there's an inconsistency in the show, and that some characters know each other and some don't. But Homer,
it's not even that. It's we know it's the joke is supposed to be Homer's so stupid he doesn't even know this guy he knows really well. But you're sacrificing this history and this character for the sake of a really shitty
and it's,
lame
exactly.
joke.
It's really and you can make that joke. Like there's a great joke where they talk. I think it was in the Our Man Tanzarian one, maybe.
Yeah.
Where they're like, "Well, what about Flanders?" And Skinner's like, "Who's Ned Flanders?" Like,
it wasn't that one. I forget which episode it was. I think that was
the idea that two secondary Springfieldian characters don't know each other.
Right,
because
who we know well, and we know the Simpsons know well, but it makes sense that those two characters don't really know each other.
That's funny. That's like a meta joke on Springfield secondary characters.
Yeah.
This joke, like you said, is literally just Homer's an idiot.
Look how dumb Homer is. And it
was just a waste of time.
Done to death in this episode.
Yeah, so he buys the Westminster Abbey model because that's the most complicated, and all the parents think it can't be done, and he wants to show how he's the best helicopter dad there is.
Yep.
And he goes, "Well, just follow the instructions." And then he can't open the door out of there.
So the door says push in huge letters, and he's pulling, and he can't get out, so he just kicks the glass and then climbs through the door.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
I really like that joke, too, because I think we've all been there with the push-pull. And, even though it's only a split second, you're kind of mad at yourself for getting it wrong, and you're kind of embarrassed, and you get frustrated with the door.
Well, there's the famous Far Side comic with the Midvale School for the Gifted, where it's just you see a kid pushing against the door and it says pull. Classic. Classic Far Side.
And then this was a classic Homer reaction to just go fuck it and to just break the glass.
Yeah, I like that.
Rather than realize he just needs to pull. Like, that was a Homer stupid. Like a stupid Homer thing to do, but it was in character. That's the Homer Simpson we know and love, not the who's Mr. Skinner, who's Principal Skinner.
There was that one part where they just cut to Homer going ding 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 ding.
It was pretty much 22 minutes of that.
It really was
20 minutes and 30 seconds, whatever the new running time is.
Yeah,
it was pretty much just all of that the entire time.
Now, Jack, I have a quick question for you before we move on to anything else. Before we move on, so you did not like the scene where Principal Skinner comes in and he says, "Who are you?" to Principal Skinner, right? How did you feel when they did basically the same thing with Homer's own daughter? That's what I thought you would say.
So Homer goes, "Man, I'm a really great dad to my two children." And Maggie makes like a face.
He's sitting next to Maggie in the sandbox. And Maggie looks at him.
She's like, "Hey, what am I, chopped liver?" And Homer goes, "Hello, little girl, and who
do you belong to?"
Yeah.
Right.
So I get the idea that he would briefly forget, and immediately he would go, "Oh yeah, of course, my third." You always forget about that 2.3 children. You always forget about the 0.3.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, that's one thing. But to have the baby right next to you, and for you to just not recognize Maggie, and then on top of that to spell out the joke, like, "And who do you belong to?" Not just that he doesn't recognize her, but he's like, "Who are your parents?" Because I don't know who your parents are, because that's a joke.
It's the same joke as the Skinner thing. So you've already done the joke in this episode.
In the exact same episode.
You're doing it worse because it's his daughter. And it's just not funny. Like, why? Who's like, he doesn't know it's his daughter. He doesn't know it's his daughter. Sheila, come in here. He didn't know it was his daughter. I'm doing something. All right, I'll DVR it.
Yeah, like, did the Simpsons writers really think that the nation's knees would be red from slapping at how funny it is that Homer forgot his own daughter?
I mean, I slapped my knee just so I could feel feelings
I'm surprised the episode didn't end with them in the sauna and him being like in the sauna naked with this woman going, "Who are you again?"
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. Don't make Homer forget key members of his family. Simpsons writers.
Yeah.
when we talk about how the post-classic show isn't what it used to be,
That's the kind of thing we're definitely talking
there's
about.
some vague stuff. We don't really know what we're saying. We're kind of dancing around the idea. That's one of those black and white. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not a good one.
Don't do that. So yeah, Homer is going to put Westminster Abbey
let's
together
go.
himself. And he passes out basically and has a visual, very nicely animated scene of himself in Westminster Abbey.
That's one of the other, I appreciate that the animators actually, rather than just shoot the scene, so to speak, they played with the camera. A lot of cinematographers and directors these days complain that too many filmmakers don't move the camera around, and I don't necessarily agree with that criticism. But in this, it is nice to do some just nice camera moves when you can, and I appreciate it. So in general, I really enjoyed the animation of the scene.
Yeah, the animation was nice.
The Oscar Wilde
Everything else
stuff,
did nothing really.
Yeah, it wasn't like Homer's like, that doesn't make any sense. The first Oscar Wildeism, I forget what it was. But it was one of those ones where Homer's like, that's not true. That doesn't make sense. And I like that. But then the other ones was like, he's just like, that one's stupid. And it was like, no, they're actually pretty funny. It was a pretty good one-liner by Mr. Wilde.
It was just,
And then Homer's at the ends with him saying, whatever happened to just saying boo? And I actually like that line. Like,
oh, I get it now.
yeah, like why can't the ghost just say boo? I actually like that line, but I thought Dan Castellaneta's delivery of the line was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
It was more like this, I'm so exasperated by Oscar Wilde. It was really more because the whole scene built up. Like the whole scene kind of ruined the line. So maybe it wasn't Dan Castellaneta, but I didn't like the delivery as much, even though I liked the writing of the line. I think this is a good point to mention that.
Yeah, I was going to say, who did like Homer's delivery in this episode?
The Academy of Television Voters. Yeah.
Yep. Dan Castellaneta won an Emmy for this episode.
Yeah, and
which is very surprising.
And he's a very talented performer.
Oh, he deserves an Emmy, but he deserves multiple Emmys.
But the writing, I'm surprised
his work on Earthworm Jim alone is worth several Emmys.
His work as the guy in Space Jam sitting next to the Monstars pretending to be a human.
That's right.
And with Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond, and he's just like, whoa, what's going on? This guy is weird. What a weird guy sitting next to me. It's almost as if it's 4 or 5 aliens in a trench coat pretending to be an adult.
Direct quote from the movie.
That's from the screenplay of Space Jam.
And when you watch Space Jam, in one audio channel, they read the screenplay to you, while in the other, they act it out.
Well, you know who played the 5 Monstars, didn't you?
Everyone in Hollywood, which is Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm everybody. I play all the parts.
I am who am.
Yeah, it's just, it was a bummer of a scene. Briefly about the Emmys. He deserved the Emmy. It's surprising it was this episode because it was so poorly written. We haven't watched too much from season 20. I'm assuming that there's at least one episode that was better than this one. Who knows?
Well, we watched Sex, Pies, and Idiot Scrapes, which was definitely better than this one.
And I mean, if you're going to do a Homer episode to submit to the Emmys, the plot of this episode isn't bad. Homer becoming a helicopter parent's not a bad.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. But it was just written so bad, and Homer was so stupid in this episode.
Like so many times. Good idea, bad execution.
I don't expect the Emmys to get it right anytime, let alone every time, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we've been overlooked several times for our podcast. Our podcast
for
get
best
Emmy,
Leonardo DiCaprio impression.
Yeah.
That's 8 years in a row we've lost to David Hyde Pierce.
It's terrible.
So they have this model contest. Chalmers is grading it, and he gives the award to Bart. Bart wins the contest because his was clearly not made by a parent. He's yelling at Skinner because the other perfect models, the students clearly had help from their parents, which is weird because it's not a recreation of the scene, but it's definitely related to.
It's very similar to the
Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Yeah,
no, I'm
Idaho, and where Lisa and
costume.
Ralph get a special award for clearly not having help from their parents, and their state costumes were terrible.
And in both cases, Homer was the one who actually did it.
Yeah. So it's weird that it's just kind of the same, different beats, but kind of the same thing going on.
The same idea, yeah. I mean, it was whatever.
And it's also, and if we're treating the story with any kind of respect as a story,
we're not.
So Bart is rewarded. The idea is like, oh man, Homer's so shitty that it looks like he didn't help. But Bart is still rewarded for Homer's helicopter parenting. So I guess the moral of the story, I guess, is that helicopter parenting works. Yeah. That's a weird way to end the A plot rather than Homer realizing maybe I should stay. I guess it is that way too. I guess by Chalmers rewarding Bart, I guess Homer's learning that you don't need to helicopter parent, let the students grow on their own.
Yeah.
I guess it's there. I don't know. It's just really weird.
It is weird. I
was really thrown off by the fact that it was the same beat as Lisa dressed up as Florida.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of a shitty way to end a shitty story.
Yeah. Well, there was one quick thing that I liked. Where Bart quotes Oscar Wilde, and he's like, "I know, Dad, I saw him too," and I kind of like that because it's inexplicable that he would know. That
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
It reminded me of Wayne's World 2, where like the roadie was like, "Did you see Keith Richards in a dream?"
The one rule we had on Charles in Charge is Charles must always be in charge.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Great
Good rule.
Great rule.
At the end, there's like a Tinkerbell parody thing where Oscar Wilde
Walt
is like
Disney,
a ghost, the
yeah.
Disney thing in front of Westminster Abbey.
And
that was whatever.
So Oscar Wilde flies out and does the Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
I don't think that was whatever. I think that was stupid and pointless. I don't know why that needed to be there.
It was stupid and pointless. So I didn't like it.
I'm hoping. I think I'm really looking too much into this and try not to be PC because we were so PC 2 weeks ago. But I'm hoping it wasn't some kind of weird gay joke because
being like he's
that
a
Oscar
fairy?
Wilde, he's such a fairy. He's such a Tinkerbell.
Oh, Jesus, I hope it wasn't.
I don't think it was that. I think it was just a really lame, shitty, like one of those post-classic Simpsons jokes. Like, here's a thing. Here's this, this
Right.
Disneyland thing they do. Well, we're doing it too.
We're doing it too.
We're
It's
not
the
gonna
same thing.
No commentary on it.
Nope, no satire. Just
doing
this
it.
is it.
You know.
And I have nothing else to say about this episode.
Nope.
We're good?
Yeah.
Good. Let's put this puppy to bed. Because now it's time to rank this episode. We do that on our 4-factor analysis. We don't have time to explain what they are, so we're just going to cut right past that, listen to an old episode, put some time on the clock.
Beep boop beep boop boop.
All right, Jack. Father Knows Worst. Let's go. Humor of this episode. This episode was terrible. This was not a funny episode.
Yeah.
I laughed maybe 3 times, which is enough for me to give it a 0.5, I think.
I gotta go back and re-rank the ones I did because I thought laughing.
We are locked in, sir.
Because I thought laughing 3 times was good, but I've slowly realized that no, I should be laughing 3 times a minute, like the classic, the 3 jokes a minute. 1.
Wow, I think that's even high. but
Maybe. I mean, there were a couple jokes I really liked.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
You can name one of them right now.
The push-pull door, going through the
All right,
push-pull.
that was all right.
That's
All right,
one,
fair
but
enough.
that's probably one of the only ones.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'll do 0.5. I'm not sure yet.
All right, the integrity of the episode. Man, Homer was in rare form.
Very
Just
stupid. He
real
didn't recognize Maggie. I'm pretty sure if you look up integrity in the dictionary, it is recognizing Maggie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's the dictionary.
Homer defined.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like a 1. This was not a good episode for, the people. It just sucked. This just sucked.
Yeah, one sounds about right.
Production of the episode, I think we'll probably have the highest marks.
Yeah.
There was that really weird animation thing with Bart and the zipper eyeball.
Right,
when he was
which
getting
wasn't
choked.
bad.
Yeah, well, I didn't like it, but I did like the Westminster Abbey scene. I thought that was nice.
I also include voice acting in on this category, so I could take points away. But again, I think it was more the script that was the problem than. Although I don't know. Like I said, I really didn't like that Dan Castellano delivery, but that might have been because the rest of the scene sucked. Even though I liked the actual joke on writing.
But there was also that thing where it just panned down on the
that's
prizes.
true.
So if we're counting that,
I mean, that's the joke, though. I'm gonna 3.
I'm gonna go 2. Jeez.
I think a 2.5.
Well,
whatever.
2.5 is average, and
You think it's
I go
below
up for the
average?
Westminster Abbey. I go down for the 2 things that I didn't like.
All right.
And then the originality of the episode. Good plot, terrible execution.
Yeah, good plot.
Way too much zipping around in the first act.
It was a great plot. Even the secret sauna could have been done well because it ties into Marge's stresses of homemaking.
Yeah.
But both botched. Is that what we? So I guess do we bring it down for the botch and bring it up for the idea and bring it back down for the botch? 2.5.
Oh wow, that's real high.
That's not high. It's average. It's 2.5. That's like saying sea level is high.
All right, I'm gonna go 2. Yeah, but this was no C level. This was F level, baby.
F for farts.
Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and this episode ranked very, very low. At a point, I thought it might be our new worst episode ever.
I thought so too. It seems to be sometimes the numbers disagree with our gut reaction, which is probably for the best.
It's probably for the best, but it's not doing much better. This is now our fourth worst episode ever.
I would have been happier if it was our second or third, but whatever.
We said it was slightly better than Lisa Goes Gaga and slightly worse than Kill the Alligator and Run. I think that's a good spot for
It's a good spot. I could see it below Lisa Goes Gaga, but that is a truly terrible episode. You kind of
really
forget
is.
when you watch an episode that's been so long.
Yeah, we watched that many weeks ago
If we
now.
rewatched it, I'm sure our hate for it would be reignited. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
no, it's a good spot for it.
All right, so that is where that one will go, and that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. Check us out on our website, wepodcast.com, where you can get to our Facebook, our Twitter. You can leave comments, get show notes, listen to the show, and you can suggest episodes with our handy suggestion form. And also, you should click through our Amazon links. We get a little piece of that. Helps keep the podcast free. Helps keep us in business.
There you go.
If you're in the Brooklyn area, you can come to Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. I co-host that with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie. That is normally the first Thursday of every month, but in July it's going to be the second Thursday because of Independence Day. Not the movie. We're not just watching the movie Independence Day instead of doing trivia. The actual
We're
holiday.
waiting for ID42.
ID42, ID8.
Well done.
Okay, so next week we are going to be coming back with a brand new episode, and we're going to be doing our most requested episode. It is our most requested. It is from season 12. It is Simpson Safari.
Okay.
And you can watch it on Simpsons World and be ready for that next time. And with that, cut all this submissions. Guys, we would love to get more of your cats. You cut all this.
No.
You cool cats.
I'm on the cat.
If you got to cut all this submission, if you want to send it in, just record yourself saying cut all this. It doesn't have to be clever. Just it has to be that is the bare minimum. Anything else you want to do is great. Just send that on in. And that is the end of this episode. So we're going to throw it over to Max Blaska, right?
Yeah, take it away, Max.
Take it away, Max.
Now, Goofik and funny little dead girl, it's time to cut all this.
Oh, I'm big and yellow and I'm serving jello. If you're a fellow and you want some jello, you better bellow. Hey, big guy, give me some jello.